Southern Miss and Louisiana advance. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. We had two rather close, I'm not sure good ball games, but they were close to get the Sunbelt Conference tournament underway, and spring ball snuck up on me. Knew it was coming, but I saw Troy got underway, Georgia Southern got underway, Georgia State got underway, and Marshall got underway. So I'm sure the rest, if they haven't, will be very, very shortly. All right, so Southern Miss rallies. Really, they were down 10. I mean, this was going in the wrong direction. I believe they were tied at half. This game was tied 29 all, I believe. And it was tied at 29 all. And Coastal Carolina was dominating. It got to be a 10-point game. I thought it was. No, I thought it did. Let me see here. Maybe it got to be an 8-point game. I thought it got to be 10. Well, I see 8. I thought it was 10. All right. I see 45-35. I was right. 45-35, but that's early in the second half. 14-16 to go. And then Southern Miss just kind of started chipping away. And the odd part is they did it at the end with Denijah Harris on the bench. He fouls out. Usually something like that happens, and that's the end of the comeback. Coastal Carolina actually got a free throw out of it, and they went up 5 with like 3.5 minutes to go, and they still lost. So you go back to that Texas State JMU game, right? And Elijah Hutchins Everett fouls out in the first overtime, and they get to the second overtime and over. Texas State just went right to the hoop. Boom, 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 boom. Couldn't stop. That was it. That was the difference in the game. In this one, I mean, that's a great job by Southern Miss. I guess there is rumblings. You hate to see it. Jay Ladner's job is on the line. Obviously, been a couple tough years after they were really good a couple years ago. Jay Ladner's health has been an issue. Glad to see him back on the sidelines. And, good to see Southern Miss come back. Obviously, Coastal Carolina is in that whole, turning it over after Cliff Ellis retired at the beginning of last season. So checking out the box scores here, it was Worrell really carrying the team. Alfred Worrell, 22 points, 4 of 9 from the 3-point line, but more importantly, 8 of 9 free throws. That's huge. All right, and we'll get to that with the Cajuns game and why it ended up in overtime. Alvarez had 9 points, 3 of 4 from the free throw line. Southern Miss, though, was 14 of 19 from the free throw line overall, 10 of 12 in the second half. Coastal Carolina, they missed their free throws, 19 out of 28. And when you lose by 3 and in a close ball game, that's an issue, especially when you go without a field goal for almost the last 5 minutes of the game. Coastal Carolina did not make a field goal in the last 4:48 of the game. They only had free throws. They were 2 out of their last 11 field goals. You hate to put it this way, but that's a little bit of a choking job, right? Amenhauser, it's like 7-2, isn't he? 5 points, 2 of 8 field goals, did have 10 rebounds, but that's kind of the guy when Denijah Harris fouls out that you go to, right? He's 7'2", 255. What are we doing? Sometimes we make this stuff really difficult. and, not quite as basic as it seems. And in this case, Coastal Carolina let this game get away. It's a great job by Southern Miss to come back, live for another day. I like the way the guys, Matt Stewart, and I guess I'm talking with Jay Ladner, like, you can't go in here and think you're going to win a championship to reel off 7 games, even compared to the NCAAs. The NCAA tournament, you only got to win 6. We got to win 7 here. I mean, that's a little bit ridiculous. But let's go in and see if we can win a couple of games, and then maybe down the road we can think about winning a championship. That's a little bit difficult to think you're going to reel off 7 games in 7 days. But if we can win a game or 2 and finish the season on a higher note than had they lost. Did I hear they had lost 8 in a row? Was that right? And so obviously that ends that streak. They had that boy got more. Something like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. They hadn't won since they beat Georgia Southern on February 1st. So they hadn't won in over a month. So even if they lose the next game, which is to Georgia Southern, at least they got that losing streak out of their mouths, right? They feel better about themselves. Coastal Carolina, who actually, they had been playing better down the stretch. They had some wins. 2 anyways. They beat Southern Miss and Georgia State. That's their only, those are their only 2. Oh, goodness. That's their only 2 wins. They didn't have that many wins in the conference to begin with, right? But that's their only 2 wins since they beat Monroe January 4th. 2 wins, period. So they don't have a lot of wins to speak of, but they did beat Southern Miss 87-78, and they did beat Georgia State in the third to last game of the year. They just barely lost to Old Dominion by 2. And so, they had been playing better, and it looked like they were going to advance, and then it came crashing down. So Southern Miss will play Georgia Southern 5 p.m. Central Time today. All right. Now, interesting. I don't know. I'm not sure if ULM and the Cajuns have ever played in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. I missed that portion of the show last night. But the Cajuns with a classic come from ahead victory. ULM not having the lead in the second half until under 2 minutes to go. And somehow the Cajuns still managed to pull out a win. We'll do that after we come back and I tell you about Supply House. Get the supplies you need from this site, made for the skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the relatable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM. Start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code S-H-5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. All right, Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right, obviously it has not been a great year for the Cajuns. It all started when they lost a bunch of players from Kobe Julian. Themis Folks had left earlier. They had lost a bunch of key contributors to their team. All right. And then the big guy got hurt right before the season. And so there's nothing you can really do, right? You can kind of change the way you played, but it was not going to work. All right. And so for a team that 2 years ago just won the NCAA tournament, all right, and the bottom had fallen out of the program overnight, and I'm still amazed at what happened. All right. People allude to it. I don't understand it. I don't get it. All right. Nobody showed up to Cajuns basketball games the year after they won the conference tournament. I don't know why. I don't know if it was ticket prices. I don't know why. And so they had sort of kind of not a great year, kind of an average year. They went on a little bit of a winning streak. They had JMU come in as a top 25 team, and it had been forever since they had a top 25 team come in, and still not a whole lot of people showed up. And then they went 1-0, and the bottom fell out. Went 1-0 of the tournament last year, and then the bottom fell out this season. Bob Marlin lost his job, and they battled. I will say that, right? I mean, they came up with a huge win against Troy. They beat Marshall. It has not been a great season for the Cajuns. They just got embarrassed by South Alabama. So they battled in the Sun Belt a little bit, but it has not been a great season. And again, a team that you just want to, go out on a high note. Now, on the other side, ULM, Keith Richard is retiring. It's been a brutal season for them. Their high note, they do have a high note. They swept South Alabama. So I really don't have anything to say. Anytime I said, should South Alabama be the Sun Belt champs, everyone comes back and says, well, they got swept by ULM. And yeah, they did. Yes, they did. It doesn't have anything to do with the tiebreaker, but they did. So ULM did have that on their resume this year. And ULM just wouldn't go away yesterday. And again, we talk about good games and close games. This was one of those interesting ball games where it was close. So the Cajuns led all second half until they didn't. And no one could score at the end until the very end. All right. It was 54-53 Cajuns with 4:40 left to go. Jalen Bolden hit a three to pull ULM within one. The next bucket was a Michael Thomas Cajuns three-pointer, making it 57-53, 3:29 to go. And Tyrese Watson answered with a three at 3:14 to go. Those were the only two buckets until 1:48. So it went from 54-53 at 4:40 to 57-56 to 1:48. Now we get crazy, okay? Muta Akil hits one of two free throws to put the Cajuns up one. Then Colta Young hits a three to put ULM up by one. Kalen Ratliff makes a jumper to go up. The Cajuns up by one. ULM answers with a dunk to go up by one. Michael Thomas hits a three to go up by two. And Tyrese Watson hits a pair of free throws to tie the game up. Muta Akil misses a layup to tie the game up. Pretty good defense there, actually, by ULM. He looked like he had a clear lane to the bucket, and some help came over where he had to, instead of just laying it up, kind of lifted his arm higher, and the ball went too high up off of the backboard. In overtime, ULM only hit, Colta Young hit they only had one field goal. The rest was three free throws. And the Cajuns win 73 to 69. So the Cajuns do advance. They do get a little bit of the bad taste out of their mouth. So that is something for sure. At least it's something, because it's been, again, not a great season. The Cajuns play ODU, and ODU being another one of those dangerous teams, right? With Sean Dura-Gordon, and was it Robert Davis? Let me make sure we get this right. Yeah, Shondura Gordon and Robert Davis Jr. Those guys have been carrying the team, although I don't think they've been playing. I see they have not been playing particularly well down the stretch. They did beat Coastal, but they finished on they only have 2 wins in their last, let's see, they were 10-12. They finished 2-19. So they only have 2 wins in their last, not 7. So 2 wins in their last 9 games. And that one is against Texas State, interestingly enough, at home. And then they beat on the Coastal Carolina on the road. So we'll see. Again, ODU is one of those, they can be very explosive. The thing is, it's usually only those 2 guys. So we'll see what they can do. And we'll see. Usually someone gets knocked off here because I don't think they're tired yet, right? I don't think you get tired the next day. It's when you play 2 games and the other team hasn't played one yet. Right. Usually the advantage came where you got a game in and then you had a day off and the other team hadn't played in a week. That's where that advantage came from in the previous format. That wasn't really fair at all. Right. Arkansas State, or in the past had been Marshall, I think got knocked off. Southern Miss got knocked off. Maybe App State got knocked off. Like they're a top 2 seed or something like that. And they're not playing until Friday. And then, Cajuns team or a Texas State team, has a game or 2 under their belt, but they also have a couple of off days in there. They get the benefit of playing and resting. So they're not rusty and they're rested. Now, that's not the case. We'll see if, the Cajuns or Southern Miss pull off an upset. We've talked about Georgia Southern throughout the year. It's kind of been a roller coaster, right? Much better than last year when they only had, they started out 0-12, right? So anything has been an improvement on that. It didn't quite get as consistent as they probably would have liked. We'll see if Charlie Henry can take it to the next level next year. I think that's when it's going to, mount a little bit of pressure, right? There's not really a, 3 or 4 or 5 year building program anymore. You got to do it fast. I don't think anyone thinks you have to be, Sunbelt champions, but you still have to compete at that level, right? Usually get 1 or 2 years, and now you got to do it in your 3rd year. All right. So we'll see what happens, especially when you get new coaches like Preston Spradlin, who new coach took a whole new team and they almost won the Sun Belt, right? That's what we're talking about. Marshall, new coach, right? Top 5 seed, right? They got much better as the season progressed. So things like that. So we'll see what happens. And ODU kind of went the other way. They sort of got off to a slow start, regular season. Then the Sun Belt happened. They got off to a really good start. And then I don't know if injuries happened or they got tired or whatever the case is, but they can turn that around by a nice couple of wins here in the Sun Belt Conference tournament. Mike Jones, first year head coach, and first time being a head coach, and now at his alma mater. So we'll see. There's a lot of excitement there, and they usually lead the league in attendance. One of those places where it doesn't matter how good they are. The fans usually show up, which is nice, which is impressive. All right, let's switch gears. We have spring football. I saw 4 social media posts that had the teams going at it at spring ball. We are in the middle of, the height of college basketball, and spring football sneaks right in. We'll talk about that when we come back. All right, quickly, a thanks. Over 1,880 subscribers. And when you know, we put a few shorts out there and it gets in there, and who knows how these algorithms, work, but that South Alabama short took off yesterday. So I don't know how it works, but it did work, and we got a lot of views. So really do appreciate it. Off again Saturday. You never know. We could get some coaches in on Saturday. I don't think I'm doing anything on Saturday, as it turns out. And then Wednesday. So we'll see if we can get some coaches. Who knows if we can get some football coaches on as they are, now seem to be available to go on other podcasts. I seem to be getting blown off. It is what it is. But I do appreciate it. We'll see when we get to 1900, and eventually we will get to more spring football. Right? We really only have a couple weeks left of basketball, and then we'll have some obviously coaches searches. Right? Both ULM and the Cajuns, at least, and we'll see if there's any more coaches searches. Arkansas State's Brian Hodgins was on that list for Florida State. He's going to get a look-see. We'll see what happens there. He already signed an extension, but that really doesn't go into effect until April 1st. So if he gets a job, it's probably going to be before that. All right. Just want to thank you so much. And let's switch gears to a little spring football. All right. Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. All right. So I could be wrong, but I saw, these are the teams that I saw had spring football opening yesterday. It was Troy, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, and Marshall all opened spring football. Obviously, Marshall with a new quarterback and mostly a whole new team. Jared Parker in his second year at Troy. Goose Crowder is back doing a little jamming with the tunes. Hopefully he's healthy. Presume that's going to be the starting quarterback. So we'll see. JC French is back with Georgia Southern. We'll see. Was going to make an interception joke, but I thought it was inappropriate. And then you have Georgia State, where now Del McGee can get it going. All right. I can't, even when you're a new coach and you get the time in December, it's still all new, right? You're moving your family and you're lining up all the coaches and everyone's got to be on the same page and you're trying to get the team right and you're recruiting and all of the yada, yada, yada stuff. Well, he was 3 months behind that, right? He got the job now a year ago. So that's really putting it together fast. Now he's had a chance to get his staff together. Now he's bringing in that huge recruiting class, which again is going to take a couple of years, as long as they stick around, to have an effect. Got his quarterbacks. Zach Gibson is out of eligibility, so we'll see how the quarterbacks go. It is a tough schedule. It's still going to be tough to compete. I'd like to see him go to a bowl game. I think 8 wins is a lot. I really do. We'll see where the Coastals are and the Marshalls are. That could ease up things. We'll see who's Coastal's quarterback. We'll see how Marshall does. Georgia Southern is really under the pressure to really step it up because they are the ones, right, kind of returning the. Let's see if we kind of need to look at the standings. Let's see if we can find the standings here. They're the ones under the pressure with a quarterback returning, right? Let me see here. Let's see here. So Georgia Southern's got the quarterback returning. James Madison's got the new quarterback, right? They got the UNLV quarterback coming back. Old Dominion should be good this year. App State's got a whole new regime. We'll see where Georgia State could finish in the middle of the pack, right? We're looking for better. Again, if they get to a bowl game, I think that's going to be a huge jump. That's 3 more wins. I'm not sure where we're going to get those wins, right? The schedule came out. Look at the schedule for Georgia State. Let's see here. Oh, that's 24. We don't have, let me see here. Got to update the website, Sunbelt. But that's where it's going to be. We'll worry about the schedule later. That's where it's got to be. Georgia State's got to compete and get some wins. And maybe you got to go beat the App States. You got to beat the Coastal Carolinas. Can you beat the Marshalls, right? You got to beat these teams that are a little bit in flux. All right. Beating the JMUs is going to be tough, right? Old Dominions could be tough, right? Those are the teams. Again, same quarterbacks, same coach. Although technically JMU's not. Although it is same coach, old quarterback coming back to the same coach. So not completely new transfer, but former player coming back to his new coach. And so that's where I go with in terms of, how you evaluate these teams and try to make picks when all these teams are brand new, right? It's going to be tough to pick Marshall, although, nobody picked them, including me. I had them finishing 5th last year, and they finished 1st. Nobody saw that coming. But I would presume, right, the top of the heap this year is either going to be Georgia Southern, James Madison, and Old Dominion. It's going to be one of those 3 teams because they're coming back with the quarterbacks, right? And then everybody else is kind of up in the air. Can Georgia State be right below those teams? That's the big question. As far as Troy goes, can they take that next step, right? You have, Arkansas State with their quarterback, South Alabama with their quarterback. And of course, the Cajuns have their quarterback, but that quarterback hasn't played in a minute. So we'll see how that goes. They lost a lot of players, transfer portal and graduation. And so we'll see how that goes. And of course, the team that could make the biggest jump is Southern Miss, because all of Marshall transferred to Southern Miss. And that's the championship winning quarterback. Of course, he had a championship winning defense. He doesn't have Michael Green on his team this year. We'll see how that goes for Southern Miss. So again, we got the 4 teams. I'm sure everyone else is going to start that. The big question is, are they going to do spring games? So this is all about the portal. No spring games. Steve Sarkisian said we had a big turnover, and we're talking Texas. We need to have these guys in a practice. Well, I'm not sure what the big difference is between a game situation and a practice. That's not why we're not having spring games. We're not having spring games because of the transfer portal. You don't want the kids to know where they are standing. You don't want other teams looking where the kids are in the standing. There's no reason to have the spring practice. You could have drills type of deal and a practice type of situation, but I don't think we're going to have spring games as they've had them in the past. You're probably going to have some sort of spring competition, spring practice, but I don't think it's going to be a spring game. That's not what we're going to have anymore moving forward. Right now, they've announced spring games for the Sun Belt, but we'll see how many are spring games, because it's not the Sun Belt teams that are poaching the players of the Sun Belt. It's the Power 4 squads that are poaching, that they need to fill in offensive line, defensive line. And unfortunately for the Sun Belt players, they're usually not starters. Maybe they are getting a little bit of cash, but they're filling in for depth at this point in time. They're not filling in to start, usually is the case. All right. Now, if you go down a level, then maybe you can go play. If it's about playing and I'm stuck behind a couple of guys, that may be a different story. We shall see. We'll keep an eye. All right. Again, looking forward to it. As Matt Stewart did a great job last night on ESPN Plus. It's again 2 ball games. What do we got? We got Southern Miss and Georgia Southern, and the Cajuns and ODU. They did take a long time. As someone who was trying to get to bed last night, they did take a long time, because that first game ended at 8:10, and they didn't play again until, we're talking Eastern time, 8:50. Again, you don't need 15 minutes, but do you need 40 minutes? Come on. Half an hour tops. They were on the court right away. Like, Matt Stewart was finishing up the postgame show, and the Cajuns and ULM were warming up. We don't need 50 minutes. We don't need 40 minutes. Let's go. 30 minutes. Wrap it up quickly. All right. As I'm giving myself my own advice, let's wrap this up. We will be back again tomorrow. More Sunbelt coverage. We'll see some baseball as well, and more spring football, if that is the case. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. You've been watching Locked On Sunbelt, your teams every day. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. We'll talk to you again on Thursday.